But yeah, how are you doing?
Yeah, man. I've been living the dream. Kind of just
Yeah,
waiting to get back into
yeah.
music and life a little bit.
I've
It's
been
been tough.
I've pretty much not done much in the past couple of weeks because it's just I've got nothing to do.
Yeah,
But we'll sort it out. Life will find its way.
I guess with like
Um,
Indiana and stuff, it must be weird. Like you can't actually jam anymore. Do you know what I
no,
mean? Mm.
no. I mean, yeah, it's really weird because it's like so I'm up here and I'm writing loads of stuff.
Mm.
And it's like this would be great, but we can't put it all together
Mm.
as a group. And so it's like I'll come up with like a guitar bit and I'll be like, oh, I was trying to figure out the bass bit to that now, but I can't do a bass line if I don't have someone else playing the guitar. So I'm
Yeah.
just having to do stuff onto a voice memo and then record it
Do
do
you
a
and
bass thing.
do you struggle when you have to like replay the memo because it's almost like you can't keep it on a loop and just keep jamming over the
No,
top of
yeah,
it?
well,
You have to,
exactly. And
yeah. I
I
mean,
need, I really sort of do need a proper recording
mm,
software that I can just properly do stuff on, but I have no idea how to actually do recording.
mm.
So it's like, I just don't know
I think it's one of
what I'm
those
doing.
things. It's like you start doing it, and I think it's like all things. You're probably going to be terrible at it when you first do it,
Yeah.
and then you slowly get better. Because I mean, I know someone who literally just started with like a USB plug-in mic and their guitar and their laptop, and then they just started from there. But they're using Audacity. But it is difficult when you feel limited by technology. It can be
Well,
difficult.
that's what Sean's been doing. He's been using like Audacity and stuff.
Hmm.
Aiden's got like a decent enough setup, I think. But other than that, I don't know anyone else who's particularly got a good recording home studio, like a
Yeah.
one that they properly can use. I'm sure there will be people,
Oh yeah.
but I personally don't know because it's partly because I don't have the money for a really nice setup. I know you can just sort of start off with like simple bits, but like a decent enough mic that can do everything and recording in ways.
That's
Like
the
my
thing. Like,
uncle is, yeah, go on.
no, no, no. Sorry, you go ahead.
My uncle's currently running off like a little interface like that big
Oh yeah.
into like an iPad that he's playing through like an old like 20-year-old microphone, and that's his setup, and that's how he's recording stuff.
That's cool, man.
But
That's so like DIY. Just like
yeah, but that's
little
kind of
little
fits
interface
his
and a
thing.
microphone. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a vibe.
that's his thing, and he's recently bought an electric guitar. And he bought Gibson SG, like a really nice one.
Nice.
Um, and he's playing it through like an amp like that big, like a little one of those little sort of mini size ones.
Yeah,
And
it's like
it's
little
just
cube amp type things.
yeah, and it
Yeah,
doesn't. It's not the greatest sound, but it works for what he's doing. So it's like fair enough.
yeah.
We
So
should, we should probably introduce ourselves.
yeah, yeah. We should. We're
Should we do
already
like a
halfway in.
yeah? Should we do
Yeah,
like a proper introduction?
yeah. Do you want to lead that or shall I? Or
Yeah. So it's weird. I don't do this
yeah.
stuff. I'm Jack and I play. I'm in a band called Indiana, and we do sort of like indie rock stuff. Those are currently only two of us, but yeah, it's kind of what I'm doing. But I'm a multi-instrumentalist, although I'm playing bass in that band really. And yeah,
And
and
you're also
yourself?
a team member of Homegrown.
I am
Yeah,
indeed.
I'm
It's
also a team member of Homegrown. I'm Oscar. I play drums, and I'm starting to learn trumpet, but very badly. And I play in a band called, at the minute, we are called, why have I just forgotten the name of my band?
you're called Broken Sync. That's
We
what
are
you're
called
called.
Broken Sync. It's only because, right, I've been thinking about so many different band names because we're wanting to change our name. And so all I've been doing recently has been like brainstorming a bunch of
so
names is so difficult because so many good names have been taken already.
It's not just that, but it's like I find naming anything really hard because like you come up with something and you go, nah, it's crap. Never mind. I'm not. This is no good. I'm not massive on the name Indiana, but it was the best name we came up with, and it kind of just sticks really nice.
Yeah, where did it actually come from, that name? Because it's quite an interesting one.
I can't quite remember. We spent ages trying to come up with one. There was loads of like random suggestions, and then we just sort of decided that we both. This sounds really crap now. You're actually talking about it. We both really like Indiana Jones, so we're like, yeah, we'll just do that because it's an easy enough name.
Yeah, because I was wondering, I was like, whether it was coming from like the state or the actual character. I'm like, the character's even better though. That's sick.
No, so it was just like we would spent ages trying to come up with one, like literal like months, and we just went, oh, just screw it. We just go with Indiana because we actually we like it. But and then we put it into the Instagram name because we couldn't. Indiana itself had been taken up, so we had to go Indiana the band.
Yeah.
And then I went to a party quite a while ago now, and someone said to me, "Oh, are you the guy from Indiana the band?" And I was like, well, "It's just Indiana," but actually, Indiana the band also sounds quite cool.
That does sound quite sick. Yeah. Well, that to me, whenever I see the Instagram name, that's what I just like call it in my head. But I know it is just Indiana, but that works as well, you know.
So, we're sort of we're in between Indiana by itself and Indiana the band.
It's a pretty good place to be in, though. Ground. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
But coming up with names is really hard. I don't know where did Broken Sync come from?
This is a good story. This is I'm glad you asked. So originally we formed a couple of years ago, and we were like, we need a name because we had a gig coming up at the George pub in Broxbourne, and it was like our first gig outside of school. Yeah. So we'd done some school things, and we needed a name, and we were in practice, and we're like, we're doing covers. Why don't we call ourselves the Covers or like the Cover Ups? And I said the Cover Ups, not realizing that is what Billy Joe Armstrong's like cover band name is.
Oh, is
but
it?
He has a cover band with like a group of mates or whatever, and they play like cover songs for like very small shows, and they're called the Cover Ups. And I subconsciously just remembered that name.
Yeah.
So we had that for a little bit, and then we were like, we really need to change this. And then I remember we were sitting in another practice, and I'd been to a party with one of my friends who was also in the band, and we had like witnessed someone break this guy's sink at his house. Well, we didn't see it happen. We just saw the destruction. Because it was like a house party. There was lots of music, lots of fun, and then like halfway through the night, this guy's sink had been literally broken off the wall and was like smashed to pieces. And there was lots of rumors going around, and there became like a funny joke where it'd be like, I'd say to my mate, "It was you, wasn't it?" Because we couldn't find out who did it. No one owned up to it.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, if you broke his sink, you don't want
to own up to it. But like, it's a lot of damage. Like, so we made a joke that this guy did it. He didn't, but we were just like going around being like, "Oh yeah, he did it." And then we were like, "Broken Sink. Why don't we call our band Broken Sink?" And the other guys were like, "Why don't we change it, and instead of being an actual sink, SYNC, And I still think that if we called it SINK, it would have sounded pretty cool. But oh well.
I even if you do change the name, I am quite a fan of the name. Actually, it's a decent name.
Yeah, I think it just reminds too many people of like NSYNC, NSYNC.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that because it's spelt similar, but the same way. But no, I quite like it.
Oh, cheers, man. Yeah. Well, I mean, we can always keep it, but I think we're just on the changing path now. We're working on an EP, and we want to kind of have a new name for that, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of what I wanted to talk about was this EP, because you were on the Homegrown account, you guys did a takeover, and you did while you were working in the studio about a month or so ago.
Yeah, we were really lucky to get in there before lockdown.
Yeah.
And we did 2 days. The first day we did just drums. So that was a pretty intense day for me because it was literally like only drums and like a few breaks in between here and there, but like a full day of drumming. And I think we recorded, the drums for about 3 songs. Yeah, which is, pretty good going for like a few hours in the studio. It was a good experience. And then day 2 we did some guitars. I did a bit of tambourine as well and egg shaper.
Oh,
so
I'm tempted. I might mention it to Lloyd that I want a tambourine somewhere on ours.
You've got to. It's such a nice sound.
Yeah, I mean, it would work quite well with our sort of more acoustic stuff, I think. But I mean, so on your EP, like, how much do you know? Like, do you have a name? How many songs are on there, and so on? Or?
It's all like, I don't even think we've even really fully agreed on which songs we're going to put on the EP. Like, obviously the ones we recorded, but I don't know if we're going to record more and then switch the orders around, chop and change.
That's the hard bit.
It's like
coming up with a track list.
And getting them to be sort of theming similarly is difficult because if you write one song and it's in a completely different style, because we had 2 songwriters in the band, Teddy and George, they both write songs and they both kind of sing their own songs. So, and their styles are quite different. So it's almost like, well, you want to get a mix of both because then it's like you want to get that wider sound. Yeah. But at the same time, you want the themes to be like well matched, and it's difficult we're going to have to basically sit down and play them all and like think like this goes with this. Do you know what I mean?
Well, that's kind of how we were when we haven't recorded anything yet, but we've come up with the track listing. But it's been about a year because it takes forever to come up with how well you want everything to be ordered.
Yeah. Because I think it's taken for granted a lot, the order of songs and like the kind of the getting it right in terms of the lineup and the running of it, because so many albums are so great because when you listen to it and you're listening from the start to finish, they flow well.
Well, that's sort of the real issue with not the issue, the challenge of coming up with something like that is because you've got we're quite luckily for us, Lloyd and I write somewhat similar, so our stuff we don't have the same sort of situation as you guys do, in the fact that our styles are massively different. They kind of are, but they're close enough that you could put them together. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, even then, when you're talking about stuff that's similar, you don't want to end up with stuff that's too similar next to each other, and so you've got to think of ways to break stuff up,
but while maintaining that kind of harmonious.
Yeah, feeling. While keeping it all ordered.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, also, I don't know if this is quite your guys' work. I've not heard much of it, but your like love songs and stuff like. I don't know if you guys write that kind of. Like,
we've got one. Music. We've got one song which I'm really happy on. Well, I think there's more in the works, but the one that we recorded, I'm like super stoked on. It's called Lever. I won't say anything more because honestly, I just honestly can't wait till it's released because it's quite ballady, quite kind of bittersweet. It's like the kind of song you could put your lighter in the air and like single tear. Like it's just I love it. I'm so happy on it. And yeah.
Well, I find with writing love songs because it's kind of like the default you go to when you're writing something. And I find when you're writing them, you kind of write yourself into a corner because there's so many love songs written that you can't really say anything unique without sounding like someone else.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's really that's quite a challenge. Is writing is love songs. I find.
Yeah.
to get it to sound good enough by itself.
Is it like the lyrical content that's the struggle? Or
Yeah, and musically as well, because sometimes it can be quite hard. But I'm not very good with lyrics. I'm more of a musician, whereas Lloyd more does lyrics. So it's quite a nice blend.
Yeah.
But for me, like I can come up with like a chord progression, it'll be fine. But then it's coming up with good enough lyrics for something that. So that's kind of why it's taken us so long to come up with anything like assembling an EP properly, is because it takes forever to write good enough material.
I know what you mean. Yeah. I think there's the thing, like someone once said to me, like when it comes to like writing songs and in like a band, there's going to be so many crap ones like that you just write and then you're not really happy on. Like they're good, but like you're not super like stoked on. And then there'll be like one out of 50 that you go, that I love that. That is like amazing. And I think
there's the Ed Sheeran quote he said ages ago of you'll write 1,000 bad songs before you write one good one. And it's really annoys me because I haven't written 1,000 songs yet. But it's true. I mean, I've got, like, you can't see it here. I've got, how many notebooks? Like 5, 6 different notebooks. They're not all full, but a couple of them are.
Yeah.
Of just like random ideas.
Yeah.
And you come up with stuff and you start playing like like G to D or whatever, and you go, that's crap. I've got this pointless, and then you throw it out. And I'm trying to get into the exercise of going back over my old ideas in these old notebooks and looking at stuff and going maybe, and like experimenting with it now, because some of this stuff's 2 years old.
Yeah.
And you looking back on it and sort of recycling old stuff to see if it works now.
That's definitely a good idea, because I guess there's stuff that you might write it and go but then let it sit, let it kind of ferment in your brain a little bit, and then come back to it, and it will take on a whole new meaning. You might have a whole new tune to it either.
We've got a song that's set to be on our EP, and I was playing through them all the other day just to sort of make sure they all sounded good. And there was one song, and I started playing it, and I was like, lyrically, it was just really like crap, and I was like, I can't in good faith record that. So I went through some of my older stuff, some of the older stuff that I'd written, and I found these, like, essentially like a whole set of lyrics that I'd written that had no music to it or anything. I was like, I'll just put that on top of it, and I've done it now, and it sounds good. So it's working. It's sort of recycling.
Well, that's the thing. You might write the lyrics and come up with the chords, and then think, these chords don't fit, or this rhythm isn't working, and then you chuck it out. But coming back to it, being like with a whole new set of chords, a whole new rhythm, like, that works perfectly. Like, there are ways of getting around it.
Yeah, I mean, I've said to people, someone, I was at a party a while ago, and someone said, I want to get into writing. He's a brilliant guitarist, absolutely brilliant guitarist, but he was like, I don't write anything myself. And he was like, how do you start writing? I was like, literally, just get a pen and paper and just write out whatever, right? Yeah. And your first songs won't be good. This is fact. I mean, there's one song that I found in the notebook that I physically cringed at because I was like, God, why did I do that? It's really bad. But you learn from it, and so you start writing stuff, and eventually, and that's why I like to keep all the old books, is because eventually some of those ideas will work. It just depends on when and how willing you are to work on it.
It's the context, isn't it?
Yeah. It's just, as long as you keep going with it and you don't, because I do find myself sometimes I'll start and I'll just, this is pointless, and I'll demotivate myself. And it's like, you can't do that. I try not to throw anything out because it's best to hold on to it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've not actually met your bandmates.
Because obviously, like, we met, and then shortly after this whole
the first lockdown.
So I mean, we haven't even been able to play a gig in so long. so long.
No, well, that's part of the online open mics was as a substitute for what we lost out, and we'll get onto that in a second. But I mean, I haven't met your bandmates, so I haven't had a proper chat with them about this. But I have a feeling they may be in a similar, because I feel like everyone I ever speak to who writes stuff always goes, yeah, no, this song that I've written isn't that good, and this isn't nothing. But actually, when you hear it yourself, you go, well, no, actually, it is good.
Well, exactly.
It's part of the perception of what you write versus what someone else writes. Because
totally,
I remember hearing Aidan play something at one of the open mics ages ago, and going, God, I wish I'd written that. That's a really good song. And then he went, oh, it's whatever, it's decent, but it's not the best. I was like, well, no, it's really good. So
that's the thing,
And then
there's a certain like perfectionism, isn't there? If you've produced something, you're never going to think it's like the best thing that you can do. But then you sometimes almost need to let it go, release it into the world, because to someone else that could be an amazing song, and it could blow their mind. But to you, because you've heard it so many times, it's gone stale, or you don't like it anymore. But someone out there is going to feel completely differently about that song. They're going to relate to it in a completely different way to you. They're going to interpret it in a completely different way. In their head, they're going to be listening to the lyrics. It's going to be relating to an entirely different, scenario.
Yeah,
and I think my band find that when they write songs is that, I mean, we have done collaborative songwriting where we've all sat down and we've gone literally with a notepad and like with the guitars turned down low, just playing the chords, and then we'll throw words out there. We'll be like, we could do da 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 da, and he's like, oh yeah, no, I like that. And then for this bit, we could use these words.
Yeah.
It's like that. And I think in that way it means that because it's like you're all contributing, it's easier to then say, I don't really like that bit. What do you think? But I guess when you're by yourself, you're writing everything. You are your own worst critic. And when you're in a collaborative process, if you throw something out and go, I don't like it, but your other bandmate goes, no, I like that line. That's a good line. And you're like, well, okay, if you like it, then, we can work with it.
And that's kind of this casualty of lockdown has been, I very much like writing collaborative like that, as you say, because I'm not the greatest lyricist, but I do like sort of bouncing ideas off of people. I don't know if you met him, but Tim, who is sort of an honorary member of the band, he doesn't play anything, but he comes up with some really nice lyrics. And like one song that quite a lot of people, whenever they hear it, go, oh, that's in my head. I keep hearing that song and it keeps getting in my head. And it's like, yeah, well, partly because Tim wrote the chorus. Like he comes up with these great lyrical ideas.
Nice.
And
that's really cool, man.
He helps me with quite a lot of stuff. But obviously now, where I'm living 200 miles away, but also in the fact that I can't write collaboratively with people anymore, it's like it's really thrown me. And as you say, like worst critic is yourself, because then I'm now sitting here looking at the stuff I've written in the past sort of month or so, and I'm going, this isn't great. Like, it's whatever. But I'm sure if I'd done it to Lloyd or played it to Lloyd or something, well, yeah, that's all right.
I'm sure.
That'd be fine.
Yeah, I'm sure. Because I think being on your own, you're gonna think worse of something that you produced. It's like I sit down at the drums sometimes and I'll record just 5 minutes of me playing, and then I'll listen back to it and I'll just be like, oh, I can't even post this, it's terrible.
No.
But then I'll just I'll post it anyway, who cares? It's not great, but I just need to post something. And then someone will say oh, I really like this bit. And I was like, oh, okay. Oh, actually people are listening to it and they think it's decent. That's the main thing.
I mean, I find that with guitar playing. I'm not a guitarist, and I've only been playing for about a year or so. But it's like the main instrument I try and write on, because when you're writing on a piano, it's kind of daunting because you've got so many you've got so much space to work with, and you can go from a G to like a E minor over G sharp. Like you can do that on a guitar, but it's not necessarily something you would go to do. And so you when I'm writing on piano, it's really hard because you've got so many options. On the guitar, it simplifies everything. You've got a set amount of things you can do. But like I'll play something on guitar and go, like I'm not good at that. It's just I'm using it as a means to an end. But like Lloyd would go, oh, I like that little bit you've just done there, or like, oh, that sounds quite good. So yeah, I mean, you've got to not criticize yourself as much, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
And be a bit less harsh on yourself.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so too. I think like we're always going to be so perfectionist about what we produce, but we have to almost take it with a pinch of salt. Be like, right, it may not be what I really want, but if it sounds good to other people, I'm going to roll with it, kind of thing.
Yeah, well, and I think it's not just necessarily a music thing. I know loads of like artists who draw and a couple of writers who go, oh, this isn't very good, or like one girl in my sixth form, she's a brilliant artist, and she'd doodle whatever and just show it to us, and we're like, that's really good. She was like, oh, okay, it was whatever, I was just bored. But like, so you've got to be less critical of yourselves, I think, is the takeaway from life. Just roll with it.
In general,
just go with it. Because
I think so. I mean, it applies to everything, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, particularly to music, but not to quite a few other things as well. I did want to ask as well about Broken Sync. You guys, obviously, other than recording recently, have you guys been able to play much together, or?
Well, obviously, since lockdown, we haven't. So, like, literally, the last time that we were even all together was when we were recording. We have got some stuff planned for when we are able to, for when restrictions allow. We would like to do some sort of acoustic performances and record it, maybe outdoors if we have to, because you're not allowed. If there's no like indoor
certain groups inside,
social mixing or whatever. There's only three of us. If we social distanced and performed outside, we could mitigate any sort of risks or anything, but following the rules. But yeah, we want to record some acoustic versions of some of the songs we've written and post those. But that's
I really
kind of the next
that
plan.
kind of stuff.
Oh, same.
Yeah,
I love listening to heavy bands that do
softer
acoustic
stuff.
covers. Yeah, there's this Have you ever heard of Pulled Apart by Horses?
No.
Mental bands. They're so good. There's this video of them performing really chill versions of their songs, and where you're so used to hearing the singer scream, he's singing these acoustic
really
songs
softly. Yeah,
the drummer's just patting a tambourine. You're like, what is going on? This is fantastic.
I think is partly why Nirvana's Unplugged album's so popular. It's one of their biggest albums. I'm not a massive fan of Nirvana, but I know enough. Their Unplugged album's really, and I've listened to it as well, it's really good because you hear some of the songs that you'd expect to be heavier played quite softly and acoustically, and it's really, I love it. It's a great way of reworking music without having to do too much. Is making things acoustic.
I agree.
It's a good work.
You can hear a lot more of the nuance, can't you, in acoustic instruments? Acoustic guitar.
Well, because when you shove an electric guitar through an amp and you overdrive it and put loads of gain on it, you lose a lot of that nuance, as you say. And again, it makes it sound bigger and stuff. But when you pull it back, I prefer acoustic guitar because you can make a lot more. There's not as much room for error. I'm not saying you necessarily make errors when you're overdriven, but you have that sort of safety net of, I can make a couple of mistakes. Where you're playing acoustic, you really got to think, oh, okay, I'll suspend that chord because that sounds nice. Whereas if you did that on an overdriven guitar, it might not come out as clearly.
Yeah, probably.
But
not.
yeah, it's a really cool way of reworking music. That's something we want to end up doing when we eventually get some stuff recorded, which should hopefully be sometime next year. Sort of early next year, get something.
Fingers crossed.
Should be good though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, permitting whether we can, but hopefully we shall get around to it. We're sort of, how long are we in? Half hour. Should we? I just wanted to mention about the online open mics, because that's something we've been doing for a bit now. How long? Since like June, July time?
Since we basically started, really.
Yeah, so maybe even April, May. But yeah, I mean, that's what we obviously were in the meeting originally when we first all discussed it. But I mean, how would you say it's sort of I can't quite think of how to word it. How do you think it's sort of progressed over time? Like, what are your views on it almost?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly,
it's not the way I wanted to word it, but
I think it's obviously when we first formed, none of what we're doing now is how we expected to be what we were doing now. I mean, we are initially, and first and foremost, we are a local sort of youth-led organisation for the borough of Broxbourne. Like, we want to promote that area, and we want to promote young musicians for that area, and we want to put on shows. We want to do loads of stuff in the area. But then obviously
can't like the second,
so that kind of threw a spanner in the works. But I feel like the online open mic was almost like a really good way of getting around that, being like, right, what can we do now? We can do stuff on social media, so let's really promote that. Let's work on that. Let's get the word out to as many people as we can, and let's maybe do an online open mic. So we can't meet in person, but tell you what, tell your friends, tell your family, we're doing an online thing. Send us in your applications and your videos, and we'll post them. And I just think it's been a great sort of opportunity for people to just share, because I think there's a lot of these things, especially on Instagram, it can be quite toxic. Like, you can post something and some bot will be in your comments like, DM us for a feature, like, and it's like paid for views, like, just pay us this amount of money and you can get your thing.
We'll post you on our 15 follower account.
Yeah. And it's like, well, like, there's no community in that. It's so soulless and dead. And it's so about money. And it's like, what we're doing is more like, it's a community thing. We're not gonna
like a local thing,
we're not expecting you to pay us. We'll literally just like
we'll just do it for free.
Because also, a lot of these people are young people. They don't have the same representation that an adult artist might have. Say you're just starting out, how do you get those opportunities unless people give you those opportunities?
I think that's a good point, is the fact that, and particularly as you say with Instagram, it is quite, and YouTube also to an extent, more so actually, is the oversaturation of people trying to start out, and it really, sometimes it just doesn't work, because there's so many people trying to do the exact same thing as everyone else. Yeah. And I think that's partly why I love what we do, is because it works out the way we give people the opportunities to do something that they don't want to sound too up our own selves, but it's like we're trying to give people opportunities in places where they might not.
It's a platform, isn't it? It's like kids can't do gigs now, and even before, people probably struggle to get gigs because not everyone's got like the opportunities to but most people, if they're a young musician, they have their instrument and their phone, and that's kind of all you need, you know what I mean, to sort of
it's sort of first starting out, you don't need these grand stuff, but it is a hard market to get into.
Yeah.
it really does throw, particularly when you're quite young as well.
Yeah.
Like, let's say you're 15, right?
Mm.
You know, it's really hard to get into an industry that sort of is oversaturated with
and if you don't have the money
people
as well to
yeah,
you know, the equipment is so expensive, everything, you know, promotion, everything costs money.
I mean, I'm running my bass through a guitar amp because, which you really shouldn't be doing, but it's because I can't afford like a bass amp. To be fair, if I didn't buy the guitar amp, I could have afforded the bass amp, but I'll ignore that.
We
but
move
it's like,
on.
you know, it's like I'm running through that, and it's not really the best thing to do, but it works and sounds good and saves me having to plug straight into a PA system that I used to do.
Yeah.
And you sort of then end up top heavy, where you end up with loads more bass around the room than you end up with guitar, which is coming through like a little amp, and then bass through the big speakers on the side. That wasn't the greatest setup, but that's what we used to do because I didn't have an amp good enough.
No, for sure. And I think if we were doing in-person events, it's like that community spirit of sharing and like, you know, if someone doesn't have an instrument, you know what I mean? Like at an open mic, like when we went to when I met you at like one of the in-person open mics, people share their instruments. People like obviously you take care of, you know, another person's property.
Yeah,
you know,
you
careful.
don't just.
But it was that community aspect of, you know, oh, this person doesn't have a guitar, they can plug in on mine and play their song.
When we did the blues jam, Sean hadn't brought his electric guitar; he had brought his acoustic, and he's a great blues player, and he just borrowed Luke's Telecaster and put it through Lloyd's amp, and it was absolutely fine. But yeah, I mean,
and that's how we'd be running
kind of stuff
the real things
we'd want, isn't it? You know, it's just like, oh, you know, oh, I didn't bring my electric, can I borrow yours for me? Oh yeah, sure. And you know, it's that's the kind of stuff I really like, and also just really like the community aspect of the open mics because it's not just doing the music as well. It's a lot of sort of chatting and getting to know people. And you know, the playing with like, because we'd never actually played before together.
No. Like that was, I think that was like the second time I'd met you. Was it even the first? I'm not sure. I think it might be. It
probably was even the first.
It was the first time I met you.
Yeah, because then we in fact I think we've only met like twice.
Yeah, in person. Yeah, that's mental, isn't it?
Because it's I've known you for months, but it's all been while I've been inside. But it's because I mean we met at that February open mic, and then we met early March to discuss the opening of Homegrown.
Yeah.
And then we immediately went straight into that first lockdown, and we had to do everything online.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really like that. But as you say, like we met that one day, that night, and within about an hour we were playing together on stage. Yeah. And it's because it's like just that community aspect of sure, we'll just all start playing together. We played. I think you weren't at. No, you wouldn't have been at this one. We went to one of them. We did Fast Car by Tracy Chapman. And Abby and Aidan were singing the vocals, and Lloyd and Zach were playing the guitar part. I've never actually played that song before. I don't know how to play it.
Yeah.
But it was the fact that Lloyd and Abby wanted to do it, and they wanted to play. Zach was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll play along with it." And then I picked up the bass and just went, "Oh, I'll just follow along with the notes and just try and keep up."
Yeah.
And then Aidan just joins in, starts playing, singing the vocal as well. It's just, that's what I love, is the community of it. It was just
totally
sort of
DIY.
Get on with it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I played it completely wrong, but it was fine. Because
that was, like you said, it's like the organic kind of everyone just jumps on stage at the end, has a fun time. You know?
Everyone just wants to get on with it. It's great. And that's the kind of aspect, the kind of community and stuff that we wanted to start building up, and we will start building up once sort of things start to die down a bit.
Once we can,
I mean, that's. But in the meantime, we shall keep on with the online stuff and how we're going. But yeah, it's been good.
Definitely. I think I really get what you're saying about how in person, you know, it was that kind of spirit of cooperation and friendliness. Just like, you know, oh, you're a musician, I'm a musician. That's our, you know, unifying thing. Let's just jam. Something so great about that we can't do now. But
No.
through this open mic, we can still maintain some sort of interaction. Just, you know, on the comments, every time a video goes up, you know, in the comments, I love this, you know, and you build up a sort of relationship between the organization and the artists, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's been real great to also see quite a lot of people who otherwise hadn't heard of when we actually did it live, or when or they might have heard of it but they were too shy to come or something. It's great to see some people in the local area who otherwise we didn't know about just be like, oh yeah, here's my submission for it. It's been real great to sort of see people come out of sort of nowhere and be like, yeah, look, this is what I've been doing, and it's real cool to see. And it's sort of restored my faith in the fact that there is actually a music scene in Broxbourne. It's not very live.
Yeah, but it's there.
It's there, and there's some really good musicians around. It's just giving them a place to actually play and a place to actually work.
Definitely.
It's
I mean, I was super lucky that I've been able to play the gigs that I've done simply because of who I know. Like the guys in my band, you know, their dad's a musician, and then so it's like that link. But not everyone has that link of like, you know, an adult musician that they know that will give them gigs to like open for people at like a fair or something, or like a little venue somewhere. It's like not many people have that, and so if we can give people that stage, obviously we can't give them a physical stage at the minute. That's what we're working towards. But if we can give some sort of platform, it's still better than nothing, because it's you know, it's still saying this is a virtual audience, but you know, it's still your performance. You're still playing your song that you've written, and you know, you're still getting it out there. You know, it's a good thing.
Yeah. You say about adult musicians around us. I mean, I think it's quite important to have musical influence not necessarily when you're like really young, but when around you as you're sort of learning. I mean, did you have much of that growing up?
Yeah, I think it's weird because like I think I probably came into the music game a bit late. I mean, my mum plays clarinet and she sings in a choir, so she plays piano, like rudimentary sort of piano. She knows how to play. But my dad knows some guitar, and I think that might have helped. But mainly, I think it was like just the music that I was listening to growing up. Like, you know, what CDs were in the car was basically my music education. So it was like Queen, Depeche Mode, U2, Stereophonics. And then as I got older, it was stuff that my brother was listening to. So I had the classics that I listened to from my mum and dad, like the greatest hits of Queen, that sort of thing. And then as
that CD somewhere.
Yeah, classic. And then I started listening to Green Day because my brother got the American Idiot CD, and I remember him playing it in the car. And I remember it was at a time where you couldn't, like, I don't know if you've ever had this, because you've got a younger sister, right? You don't have an older sibling.
Yeah.
But it's kind of uncool when you're a certain age. It's uncool if your younger sibling likes the same things that you like. It's like, that's not for you. You know what I mean?
It's exactly the same thing.
Yeah, I wasn't allowed to like Green Day, so I just pretended I didn't like it. But then obviously now it's like, you know, obviously you get older and you're like, oh, who cares? But it was like Green Day and MCR, My Chemical Romance. Still my favorite band, MCR. Absolutely. I stand by it. I'm not ashamed. I'm not ashamed. I stand by it. Absolute favorite band of all time.
I don't listen to enough of them.
What about you though, man? What was your sort of musical start?
Similar in a way of sort of, my dad used to drive around a lot, because he was sort of did odd jobs around. And I used to go in the car with him when I was quite young, and he'd had the same Queen greatest hits. Did you have the box set with all three sets of the greatest hits?
Yeah.
And I think it's actually with my vinyls right now, because I kept it, stole it, and he I was like 9, and he used to put it on in the car, and I remember hearing Bohemian Rhapsody for the first time, and there's this bass run John Deacon does right before it goes into the operatic section, dun 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 bum, and it's this great. I remember hearing that for the first time. I go, wow, that's really cool. Yeah. And I never really fancied bass when I first started looking at learning an instrument. I was like, guitar's cooler, obviously, but yeah, like stuff like John Deacon's bass playing. I remember hearing it, going, that's really good. Like,
yeah, man.
You know, and then I kind of had a phase of thinking when I was sort of 12. You know, when you're like young teenager and you think you're the coolest and everything around you is really uncool. I was like, it's stupid. Learning music's dumb. Why would anyone want to do that? And my grandma got a keyboard, and she doesn't play much, but she wanted to start learning how to play. And I remember just sitting down at it and just start, working out little things and so on. And so then I started learning piano. But yeah, it's sort of, I really like my music's taste is a bit different from my family, but it's quite influenced by them. So my grandparents are really big fans of the Beatles.
Nice.
Which I'm obviously a massive fan of as well. And the Eagles and stuff. And my mum really likes Elton John and so on. And Billy Joel, who I really love as well. And so all of this kind of accumulates. And then I've also really big fan of like Tim Minchin.
Nice.
I've blanked out. Who else? Joshua Lee Turner, who's this brilliant American guitarist.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, it's just like all this music sort of influences me to sort of try and not copy it, but sort of figure out a way of emulating something similar. I'm really fascinated with how both Billy Joel and Tim Minchin use lyrics. I've not quite understood it fully yet, but that's my aim, is to be able to write lyrics that good.
Tim Minchin is incredible. Like he's the
brilliant.
funniest writer out there.
Well, he's got a new album out, which I ordered on vinyl, but apparently there was an issue with the pressing of it, so they've had to delay it. It's really annoyed me.
That sucks, dude.
So I had to listen to it on Spotify instead, which isn't a problem. But he's got this new album out, and it's not a comedy album, and he's trying to sort of stray away from that. But again, his writing is just as good lyrically, is because it's the way he uses words and rhymes to sort of double entendre and stuff is brilliant.
Yeah.
And so that's the kind of stuff I really like listening to, and it influences how I try and write and how I try and play. I mean, I can play blues scales really fast, and that's partly because I've listened to enough to mention it. Because he can do that, I can try and do something similar. But
so
yeah,
that's how you started the piano, is it? Through your grandma got you a keyboard and you were listening.
Well, she bought herself a keyboard, and we were living with them at the time.
Yeah.
And she bought this little Casio keyboard, like one of the small ones, no touch sensitivity or anything. And she had little stickers on each key to tell which one's which. And I just started sitting down and started playing little bits, and I went, oh, I quite like this. And I remember I tried to learn what a B minor was, like a B major, sorry. And I was playing this like B diminished instead, because I didn't actually know how chords were built.
Yeah.
And so then I started looking it up and started, using online resources, and then you eventually start figuring stuff out. You go, oh, okay, so that's a C add 9, because it's got that bit on top and so on. And then eventually it just sort of accumulates. And then I transferred what I learned on piano onto guitar, and then what I knew on guitar onto bass.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, and then you sort of just figure stuff out as you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's great. But yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know. Like, I started pretty late. I don't. How old were you when you started sort of actually playing?
15, I want to
Oh,
say.
okay. So we actually no, we started fairly similar age. I think I was like 14-ish when I started playing drums. So
I
yeah,
was, yeah, I must have been 15, yeah, and then yeah, this is year 10, like right at the end of year 10, and then onwards. But yeah, I mean, it was. I remember walking out of music class, and I always regret doing this. I remember walking out of music class, the very last one in year 9, because I hadn't picked it up as a subject. I remember going, "Thank God I never have to go in there ever again," because I don't like learning music. And then, like a couple of weeks later, I was sat down at a keyboard trying to play. Like,
yeah. Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Like, I think I went through a similar sort of phase of not really enjoying um, GCSE music, not
no,
really enjoying music before then, just finding it a little bit difficult, hard to understand, just wanted to play drums kind of thing. And then even then, like I stopped playing drums really for a long time. It's only been in the last couple of years that I've got back into it in the way. Because I think there was about a year where I just barely played because I just wasn't
when
because I didn't have a
when
band
did
or
you?
anything.
No, I mean, when did you start playing?
So I started playing when I was I think around 14-ish, and it was after I, I went to go see 21 Pilots um, because my brother was meant to be going with a friend, and his friend basically bailed last minute. And so
Dropped out,
literally
yeah.
a few days before, my brother was like, do you wanna come with me instead?" So I was like, "Hell yeah!" So we we literally went, from school, got on the train, went to the O2 Brixton Academy. 21 Pilots, insane. Like I don't particularly like their music much anymore, but I was really big into it then, and just their live show was incredible, and that
I've
made me,
I've seen
yeah.
I've seen clips of their live
I mean,
shows.
you know
I'm
what
not a
Josh
fan of their
Dunn's like,
music,
yeah.
but their live shows are brilliant to watch.
Their energy it's magical. I was
But
like,
it's that clear love of their music, of what they're doing,
yeah,
and I think when you're watching. I had a similar thing with Tim Minchin. Is you watch him play. He does a song with like a 6-minute solo in the middle, and you
yeah,
watch him play it, and he's just like jumping up and down. He's like having a good time, and
yeah.
it's just like it just looks like real good fun. And so I wanted to. I guess I was just like, oh, I can
Yeah,
do that.
I
I
want to do
can't do
that.
it.
Yeah, but it's that love of performing, isn't it? It's like
Yeah,
it ignites something in you, and you see someone having so much fun doing it. You're like, that's all I want to do. you know?
yeah. I mean, and then I performed for the very first time in year 12. So I'd been playing for a bit by that point.
Yeah,
Um, I'm still only playing piano, but we'd been playing. It was literally like when Lloyd and I first formed the group was this performance. We didn't have a name or anything, and we did a Beatles medley. And
nice.
I remember we started off with Hey Jude, and then we got to what did we go through? We went through Let It Be, into Imagine, and then into Twist and Shout. Yeah, and I did this glissando right down the keyboard. Like
Yeah,
slide
yeah,
right
yeah.
down. And the crowd, it was only a crowd of 100 odd people, but they all were like having a good time. They were up dancing, and I was just like, this is great fun. This is just good. I like
Yeah,
doing this.
yeah.
So when was your first performance?
Oh man. Oh, it was
What was the moment you realised you really enjoyed doing it?
I think it must have been like a talent show, and it was with the band that I first started. I had a really supportive music teacher. Like I was so lucky that she kind of just encouraged us all the time to be, and she put us into a group in my first band. It was me, my mate who was actually in Broken Sync for a little bit, and then this other girl. I won't say their names because I don't know if they want me to or anything, but
No.
and we were just a trio and we did covers, and I think the first thing we did was like I think it was like a school talent show or something like that, and it was very much like a, you know, play one song and then sort of go.
Yeah.
And I remember I'd been only drumming for a few months, so I couldn't play much more than a rudimentary, you know,
Yeah.
you know, like just 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 the whole way through.
Better than I can do. Yeah.
It's, you know, yeah, it's once you get that, it's fine. But I remember that was like the first time I did that, being super nervous, and then it's like once I'd done it, I was like, I can do that. Like that's
Yeah.
okay. Like I love that. That was genuinely like so much fun. I want to do that again and again and again.
Yeah.
And I just kept doing it, and you know, and then that band finished because I think we all went separate places after GCSEs,
Yeah.
and then I started this band I'm in now, Broken Sync, when I was in year 12. So yeah, that our band has, you know, sort of been around the same time as Indiana has. As you
Yeah.
guys. You
You guys
started in
have.
year 12. We started in year 12 as well.
Yeah, well, it would have been the summer, that Christmas of year 12, because it was for the school talent show in January, our music festival. And I'd spent pretty much in September right till December trying to find someone to play with
Yeah.
for this
Yeah.
show, because I hadn't got in the year before, because I was singing and they decided I wasn't that good of a singer, which is fair. And then I spent ages trying to find someone to play with, and I remember there was like this Lloyd. I'd met Lloyd a couple of times, but he'd always seemed a bit too cool for me. Like he always seemed a bit too cool. And I remember we'd met and we were friends. And I was just like, "Do you want to just go down to the music practice room and just like play some stuff?" And we I can't remember what the first song we ever played was. Probably something like Twist and Shout or something. But we started playing like a couple of Beatles songs. We were like, we could do this. Just put them together and we can do it. And we did. And it was a good performance. He doesn't like it. He does. There's a video of us playing and he really doesn't like it. But I quite like it. It's a good video. Yeah. It's a good performance.
You guys are you guys are a good group. I definitely think there's definite like dynamic.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, we spent ages trying to come up with a name, because all the names we came up with, we kept vetoing each other's because we were like, nah, that's not very good.
Yeah.
And then we spent quite a while trying to write stuff, but I was quite new to writing music, so I wasn't, a lot of my stuff, as I say, like the cringeworthy song that I'd written, like awful. But it was one of the first songs I'd ever properly written, and I looked at it the other day. I was like, why did I do that? But we have performed it. I won the very early open mics way back in April last year, would have been, I think, or like March last year. And then we kept going. But you guys have Broken Sync have had a bit more. You've actually played a lot more live in.
Yeah, well, like I said,
big gigs.
We've been really lucky with the opportunities that we've been given to play. I mean, we got quite a few from just my school and my music teacher being like, oh, there's this town event, you know, or there's like this Christmas concert, or, you know, and so we played a lot of school like talent shows, and for like assemblies we played, like we were like the sort of go-to school band that they would use, even though we only played like Green Day and Arctic Monkeys covers, and, you know, we liked to play heavily. It wasn't like, you know, happy, you know, pop music, but, you know, we were still decent.
Yeah.
But then we were very lucky to do like a couple of pub gigs, and I think we played, the best one was Rock Around the Clock Tower, because that was on like it was like a big stage, and it was like the biggest stage that we'd ever done, and that was crazy. Like we are so lucky because like we have those connections, and if we didn't have those connections we wouldn't have got there. And I think we're definitely very lucky, and I'm aware of that, because I know that not everyone can have these sort of opportunities that we've had. But,
no, well, I mean, this year was supposed to be our year. We were going to get everything recorded really early, get released by sort of
I know that
summertime,
feeling.
and then start. Oh, and then we'll just perform together through the summer, and then it just didn't work. That did, but I'm really glad we have Homegrown as the platform now that we can use, and I feel like we are part of, as we were saying earlier, the people who want to start out but they can't quite get their leg up properly because of lack of opportunity or stuff. I feel like we are also part of that in a way of we're a bit luckier, I think, in the fact that we know quite a few people who will give us places to play and stuff, and people don't always have that, but giving people a platform to be able to express their music and play it properly, it'd be it's good.
Because we know how good it feels to play music, then we just want to share that feel. It's just the best thing ever, isn't it?
Yeah,
music.
It's a great feeling. As I said, I went through a phase of self-righteousness when I was like 13, deciding that it was pointless and no one ever needed to do it because it's not worth it. Go punch that kid. And then
I know the feeling, man. I know the feeling.
It's a cringy child, but then you listen to music. I mean, even at that point when I was having my moment, I was still listening to a lot of music. And still, going, oh, that was quite a decent little run he did on the bass there.
Yeah.
Oh, and then eventually I just was like, oh, you know what? I'll try and. I still haven't learned half the bass runs I'm on about, by the way. Like, they're all.
I know what you mean though, because I was so nearly put off of music for life when I did, because I played cornet in primary school, and I was like, grades were terrifying. Like I remember being really scared of doing grades. Like I put so much pressure on it, and I don't know why, but that was just me. And like I did like a couple of I went along to some Hertfordshire youth orchestra things, and I just remember being there was a lot of I don't know if elitism is the right word, but definitely snobbery. I remember I was struggling to play the part, and I remember looking glancing sideways at someone who was playing the same instrument as me, because I was like, I can't actually read at the pace you're reading. I need to see what you're doing. And then I overhear him being like, well, we got a button watcher over here, and I'm like, mate, I'm like 8. I'm like, looking back at it now, I think he was just being kids can be mean, kids can be cruel, but it nearly put me off music for life, because I was like, I never really want to do this.
Yeah, it's not. I remember similar-ish, not obviously in a very personal experience like that, of being told that I was not good, but I remember watching people play when I first started out, and I remember, as I said, learning how to play a B major, and I was playing B diminished because I just didn't know any better.
Yeah.
I remember there was this kid in my sister's year, so he would have been year 8 at the time, maybe. Year 7 even.
Yeah.
And he started playing, and he started playing I think it was Moonlight Sonata, but not the first movement. I think it's the third one, where it starts getting really quick and starts doing loads of runs and stuff. And it's this year 7 kid. He's this tall is showing me up, and I was like, you know what, screw it. But
it's one of those things, you can either use it as motivation, or it can make you stop.
Well, and then I went to myself, well, he knows how to read music. He's probably been playing since he was 5, right? He hadn't been, but he's probably had a proper education around it. I was still trying to figure out how to play a proper B chord, we all learn at different paces and stuff.
Exactly.
But I remember going to myself, I don't need to learn Moonlight Sonata. It's not the kind of stuff I want to play. I want to play Billy Joel. like just play like Uptown Girl, which is like 6 chords, you know. It's
Play
like
what you love, innit? Yeah.
I don't need to do that, but yeah, and then
There's always going to be people like that, aren't there?
yeah.
I mean, especially on social media, like it's impossible not to scroll now on my feed and not see 10 other drummers that are just insane. Like you watch them and you're just like, well, I'm gonna go and quit now. I'm done.
Yeah, I give up.
But I mean, I was very lucky. I had like kind of like a mentor type figure who was in the year above me, who played drums, and they were insane. Like a very into their metal music. So we played quite different styles.
Oh yeah, that's proper.
Definitely influenced. Definitely, influenced some of my playing. Like I think of some of the licks I do now, and I'm like, I literally first learned that when I was 15, watching this person play and learning from them. If you've got people who are better than you around you, it can influence you.
It helps, yeah. I mean, my uncle is a guitarist, and he's not ever had like a proper education around it. He was taught by, funnily enough, Declan McKenna's dad, name drop, but he was taught by him way back in like the 80s, probably like early 90s, and he's a great sort of folk guitarist, and it influences me in a way that I'm not necessarily a folk. Our music's not folk centric or like particularly that kind of sound, but you listen to him play and it's like, oh yeah, I can kind of figure that out. And I played one of his songs. I learned one of his songs a while ago, and I was playing it with him, and he goes, "Oh, you play that better than I do." And I was like, "No, I don't. I just play it the way that you play it."
Yeah.
But I play a G6. He plays like a full-on G chord, and I play a G6. He was like, "I really like the sound of that. I can. I'll do that now." And he was like, "It's weird because it's my song, but you play it better." I'm like, "No, I don't." But so it's like you having people around you who do sort of encourage you and help, and you sort of borrow stuff from and influence you. It's really good to have, and we're quite lucky in the fact we have people like that around us. I think, whereas I think some people just don't have that. I mean,
I always tried to be that for people who were younger than me as well. Like in school, I always tried to not put people off, because I remember how bad I felt if someone, when someone said to me, or someone like whispered like, "Oh, button pusher, can't read the music, blah blah blah," and it made me, it seriously made me like, I just want to encourage people. So there was like this like year 8 or something, and I would like pop my head in when he was in the practice room drumming, and I'd just be like, "Oh, really like what you're doing, man, sounding great, like keep it up." Because he would say to me like, "Oh, how do you play this? How do you play this?" And I'd like try and show him and stuff. But it's like, I want to not, I want to be an encouraging, I want to be a force for good.
Yeah, I was never quite that similar, because I think when I was at school, I wasn't playing much guitar or bass or anything, and there was not a lot of kids who wanted to start learning those instruments in particular. A lot of people at that school wanted to learn piano.
Yeah.
And it just so happened a lot of them were quite a bit better than me already. So that no one ever really, I'd never really needed to help anyone in that way. But I remember someone did pop in their head in a similar way as you just said. They popped their head into me in one of the practice rooms and said, "I really like what you're doing there." And part of me was just like, all right, like calm down. Like I felt like it was really sarcastic. He probably meant it perfectly. Fine, like the way you mean it. Yeah. I just remember going to myself after he closed the door. I was like, "Oh, so like,
well, it can, because I know what you mean. It can be weird. Like why is someone being nice to me? Like, what's going on?
Particularly someone who's like really good, and I'm not that good, and it's like, go away. But I'm sure he meant it in a very nice way. But I hope he did. But it's like, it's good to have people encourage you.
Right, should we do like a little outro type thing?
Yeah, we probably should.
Well,
going to cut straight off.
Thanks everyone for listening and watching. Appreciate that.
Day.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've been me. You've been you.
You have been you. Yeah, that's how it works. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
Yeah, you too, man. You too. Take care.
And we'll get round, depending on how good this one is. We'll do some others.